Hi, I had a client last week. They've got a lot going on. And I taught her a little bit of yin yoga. And I said something that really landed with her. And it honestly didn't even click in my brain when I said it. I was talking about being calm, letting gravity do the work, and knowing that there's progress in stillness. And she was like, that was, I hadn't thought about that. That there's still progress even when you're being still. And I was like, yeah, neither had I. I started thinking more about that in terms of fitness. And I feel like we get wrapped up, even in corrective exercises, we get wrapped up in what can I do to, how can I move to fix me? How can I control this? And a lot of times the key is to let go of whatever you're holding tight. Because even when you're trying to correct something in your body, that muscle is tight, right? And so when we try to stretch it and we're trying to force the stretch, it can just increase the tightness. So I started thinking how that applies to myofascial release. I'm playing with a lacrosse ball. And I've been hesitant to talk about myofascial release because it requires equipment. And I don't really like teaching or talking about stuff that requires equipment because I don't like the assumption that everybody can afford or have space for equipment. That being said, this is very important and I think it could help a lot of people. So I don't want to discount it and I don't want to avoid it because it is very important. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of things that you can do. We're going to talk about neck, traps, and feet because I feel like those might be the most tense places in a lot of people. So this is kind of a baby introduction to myofascial release and a very quick equipment discussion about what you can buy and what you can use in your home that might make up for that other stuff. So, equipment. First, I want to talk about yoga blocks. They're just foam blocks that you can use throughout your practice, your yoga practice. You can use them in place of weights. You can use them to help with myofascial release. They're, in my opinion, priceless when it comes to stretching at all. They are not to be seen as a crutch. They are a prop. They are a tool that you should probably always have in your toolbox if you feel the need to stretch. If you're new to this, or you don't want to buy a block, or you have your reasons, grab a book. This is a thicker book. It's one of the thickest ones I have. It's not quite the same height as a yoga block, but it'll make do. Think Harry Potter size books. So whatever book you have that's big. Textbooks, great. Hardback would be great because it has the nice ridge. That would be helpful, but this is a great option. If you've ever gone to a physical therapist or did any kind of research about myofascial release, I'm sure you've heard someone talk about lacrosse balls. These are really nice to have to like really push on specific points to help open up muscles. They're very useful. These, it's a duo. It's just two lacrosse balls that are fused together. It's nice for the neck and a lot of other places, but so these are two things that you can buy that you probably don't have around your house. If you have a dog, you probably have tennis balls hanging out. These can easily replace the cross balls. Some people actually prefer them because they're a bit squishier. Doozy needs to inspect. So, can we not? Do you want this one? Can I just mess with it for a second? If you want to make a duo out of this. Thief. If you want to make a duo out of your lacrosse balls, just put them in a sock. Or your tennis balls, rather. Just put them in a sock. Another tennis ball. I had an extra just in case that happened. Anyway, 2 tennis balls and a sock. Great option. Tie off the sock so your tennis balls don't move around too much. But this is another option if you don't want to buy that duo. Everything's available on Amazon and your local sporting goods store. Reasonably priced for the most part. None of this stuff is super expensive. It's not like you have to go on the Manduka website and buy their super fancy yoga block. You know, again, you can do it at Walmart, Amazon, any sporting goods store. It's not that crazy. But you also have at-home options, assuming that you have tennis balls. So, let's talk myofascial release. First thing we're going to do is open up the shoulders and the neck a little bit. So we're going to take our block. We're going to place it underneath the sacrum. So lift your hips and place your block underneath that pelvic shelf, right? This big bone. So it's not in your low back, and it's not like down by your hamstrings. Your pelvis is the shelf, right? Nosiest dog in the world. Next, you're going to take your lacrosse balls and you're going to place them right at your traps, right? So right there. You're going to take your other one right at your traps. So right outside of your shoulder blades. And then just let your body rest. Now, if you're anything like me and you keep tension in your neck and your traps, this is going to be a lot. So you might just want to stay here. And again, this is no movement in the name of progress. So relax. Allow these balls to just kind of push into that muscle and melt into the prop. If you want a little bit more, allow your arms to go long and then very gently lift. Whoo, buddy, until arms are down and relax. And you might feel a little bit of tension. Try to release into it. And come back down. So now you've added a little bit of movement, but it's going to help push and actively roll out any kind of tension in that space. So we lift and lower. Remember to breathe. I would say do that about 10 times. But just keep in mind that, you know, it's a really, really deep opening. The next one that we're going to do, release your block out from underneath you. We're going to take your block and put it behind your head. So basically, you have ridges in your skull, right? Ridges here. You can feel them. That's where your skull starts. And you're going to place those ridges right at the block or the book or whatever you have. And this feels really good to me. I can just let this rest. And again, you're taking your time, but for the sake of the video, I am showing you a faster version. So you've got your neck on the block, you're resting, and slowly just look to the right. When you feel tension or you feel a nice tender spot, rest. Hang out on that spot. Eventually that muscle and that fascia will release. And then you move. You'll feel a nice release. You only want to go about an inch at a time and move very, very slowly. Again, let this be slow movement. You will feel the release. Come back to center, go left. I feel this almost immediately when I start to turn my head. Rest. When you feel the release, turn. You'll tender again probably, or at least it does in my head, my neck, and then move. Whew. And then come back down to center. Your last release was the foot, and I have multiple family members with plantar fasciitis. I have clients with plantar fasciitis. It's very common if you have walked a lot in your lifetime, if you have run a lot in your lifetime and you don't stretch properly. It can also just happen with age. Some people are just more susceptible to it. So I want to show you a nice release for the arch of your foot. And I actually have a client that instead of using a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, when you have plantar fasciitis, you're supposed to ice the area. But instead of a lacrosse ball, she takes a highball ice cube. It's round, and she puts a towel over it, and then she'll roll that on her foot, which is, I think, genius. I tell everybody to do it now. So if you do have plantar fasciitis and you want to get the swelling down and you want to roll, that's the way you do it. But if you're trying to roll out your foot, you don't have a highball ice cube, grab that lacrosse ball and place your foot on the lacrosse ball. What you're going to do is just roll your foot around until you feel a tender spot, until you feel that muscle go, and you stop. And you push a little bit harder, maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just roll that spot back and forth. Ooh, buddy. And stop. Again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just back and forth roll. And just roll around. I would say do that for about 3 to 5 minutes per foot if you have plantar fasciitis. If you don't, it's gonna hurt anyway. We do not take care of the bottoms of our feet. Typically, they are always very tight. Give yourself time to roll out your feet. It will hurt like the dickens because there's a bunch of knots in there. It's just like getting a deep tissue massage. It hurts, but it feels really good later. Your feet will feel so much better if you roll out the bottoms of them that way. Same thing with your neck. Neck will feel really loose, hopefully, and open. Be aware that when you are rolling out these muscles, just like any other massage, you might feel tender in that space for a little bit, and drink lots of water to just help flush everything out and get everything nice and lubricated again, because you've really kind of dug into these muscles when they're not used to be digging into, especially if you're doing it for the first time. So drink water, be very gentle, move slowly, and let gravity do the work. Let there be progress in your stillness, in your slow movements, rather than trying to push through something. Don't rush this. Allow yourself the time to completely relax into it. Release the control, let it do the work it's gonna do. I hope this helps. I'll do more on myofascial release the more that I research it, and I have some good tips for you in specific areas. If there's anything that you want to hear from me, let me know. Yeah, thanks. See you later. Can't believe she stole my tennis ball. She's got one right over there. What a bum.